and access to the Small Business Administration's programs for Paycheck Protection Program and what we call the EIDL loans. I'm really quite grateful that Julie Clowes, the District Director of the Small Business Administration, has joined us again, along with Roseanne Faust, who is the President and CEO of the San Mateo County Economic Development Association. We know it as SAMCEDA. And she is going to be helpful in particular because the county has been generous in setting aside, I think it's $1 million, Roseanne will correct me if I'm wrong, that will be made available to small businesses as well. So I'm going to keep my remarks quite brief and move on to suggest that what we have had is unprecedented. There's nothing that we could have anticipated that would be this dramatic in terms of its impact. We've tried to move as quickly as possible, first with $370 billion for small businesses, and now another $250 billion. And we have, and frankly, we may have to augment that in addition. But I do want to tell you some good news if you are a restaurant owner. It appears, based on a conversation I just had with the governor, that during this next phase, which he refers to as the second phase, there's going to be a loosening of the restrictions on restaurants in particular and other entities as well, and that we're talking weeks, not months. So I think that's good news for all of us who want to dine out, in addition to all of you who are restaurant owners. There's also another program that I wasn't aware of that was just consummated by the state of California and FEMA that will provide the opportunity for restaurants to, and probably catering services as well, to provide meals for seniors and in shut-in situations, and much like the Meals on Wheels, and there will be 100% reimbursement through FEMA. So another opportunity. If you want more information, we'll try and find it, but it's also probably available on covid19.ca.gov. We will move on. I'm not going to go through all my notes because I know you've got questions, and I want to make sure that we will be able to respond to it. So I'm going to turn it over now to Julie Clowes, who's the District Director for the Small Business Administration San Francisco office. She has been so responsive to our questions and to all of those who have sought her advice and counsel, and she is really a wealth of information on what the Small Business Administration can do for you. We did another telephone town hall with the Bay Area Council just a few days ago, and again, she provided very valuable information. So Julie, again, my great thanks for you being on the call this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me back. And I'm going to do a quick share screen so I can show you all some visuals that will hopefully help as we talk through some of the programs. So some of this, if you've listened to other town halls, some of this might be a repeat. But I'm also going to talk a little bit more about PPP and some of the calculations, and try to give you some updates, but then also maybe touch on some of the most frequently asked questions as well. So I do like to make sure that I do at least a quick overview of all the different types of assistance that's available, because as we all know, PPP's gotten a lot of media attention, but that's not the only program that's available or will be available soon. And I really think it's important as business owners that you need to make an assessment as to what are the tools, what are the financial resources that are best suited for your business needs. Not everybody's answer is going to be the same. So it's incumbent on you to kind of, take a look at your situation, run some of your numbers, see what your expenses look like, and what kinds of things you need covered today and then for the next couple of months. So before we jump into more of those details, I do want to talk about some of the debt deferment and relief options that are out there too, because I think these are really valuable forms of assistance as well. If you were somebody who already had an existing SBA disaster loan, and I'm talking pre-COVID-19, so if you have been a victim of a wildfire, for example, and you had an existing SBA disaster loan, we have already gone ahead and deferred your payments through the end of this calendar year. So no action that you need to do, that's already been done for you. The other program that was a result of the CARES Act also was the SBA Debt Relief Program. And this program, SBA will pay the principal and interest on any existing SBA debt you may have, whether that be the 7A, 504, or microloan program, for 6 months. So I think this is huge for people who have existing SBA debt. Again, across any one of our programs, we will pay 6 months of the principal and interest on those loan payments. The best way to tap into this is to make sure you go talk to your lender. The lenders have been given instructions on what they need to do on the back end to communicate with SBA so that we can pay them the principal and interest payments. You as a borrower, I recommend you check in with your lender and just verify that they have indeed enrolled you in this program, and that their payments are being made on your behalf by SBA. But the main programs I think most people are interested in are the loan programs. And you see on the slide, I do mention the Express Bridge Loan Program, which is a program that becomes available to offer what we call like gap financing of up to $25,000 through commercial banks, explicitly our express lenders, which is a specific designation by SBA. It is available, I will say, because of PPP and the massive amount of resources that's taking with banks, that they're not really focusing on that right now because of the PPP program. But it is an option that I do just want to make sure people are aware of. But the PPP and then the EIDL program are the two main ones. The EIDL program, I'm going to start with that, is actually not the second wave of it, if you will, is not reopened yet, but we do expect that application to come online very soon, hopefully before the end of the week. The program itself was for businesses, small businesses and nonprofits who have suffered some sort of economic injury as a result of COVID-19. And the program is designed to be a working capital loan so that you can cover your basic business expenses, your ordinary operating costs. This can include payroll, but it also can include, your rent, especially vendor bills that you might have, all those accounts payable. All of your ordinary business expenses can be paid with this loan. It's a 3.75% interest rate for small businesses, and it's a 2.75% interest rate if you're a nonprofit. The amortization period is 30 years, and we are deferring the initial payments for a year. So this loan can go up to $2 million. And again, it's meant to cover your working capital needs right now. It's not meant to cover any business losses you may have suffered, but it is meant to cover your business needs right now. As part of this, one of the enhancements to this program under the CARES Act was this EIDL advance. And this is an advance, it's a forgivable loan. This piece of it is forgivable. An advance of up to $10,000 per business. It's calculated based on the number of employees. So it's basically $1,000 per employee. If you are self-employed, you are considered an employee for this purpose of this calculation. So you can get at least $1,000, and again, up to $10,000 is the cap, and it is forgivable. So even if you you get the EIDL advance, and for some reason you don't get the EIDL loan, doesn't matter. Your EIDL advance is still a forgivable loan. You don't have to pay that back. Hopefully when the application reopens, it's on our website, on SBA's website, sba.gov, and it's a one application that covers both programs. You'll see there's a checkbox on the application that says, would you like to be considered for the EIDL advance? And so if you would like that, you just check that box and you will automatically be evaluated for both programs. Those of you who applied for this program before the first shutoff date, which was the 16th of April, no need to have to reapply. Those applications are still being processed. We did close down the portal because we were getting close, we're getting close to the appropriation caps, and we wanted to process all the existing applications that were in-house So that is why we did close that portal, but rest assured, if your application is in there, it is being processed. When we reopen, we did get a second wave of appropriations for these programs as well. We've got an additional $10 billion for the EIDL Advance and an additional $50 billion for the EIDL program. So they will reopen again, and we will be able to do a lot more lending under this program as well. The one thing I like to tell people, because the big question we get is, how do I check the status of this loan? Unfortunately, right now, there's not a really good way to do that. There's no dashboard, unfortunately, where you can go check. Your EIDL Advance, as I'm seeing from experience, because this is a forgivable loan, what SBA has done is going out and pushing that money right away. And it's showing up in your checking or whatever bank account you designate on the application form. So you may not get messaged by SBA, but you might all of a sudden have this surge of money show up in your account. So I think we alarmed a few people, but it's a happy thing. This is legit. This is the money from the EIDL Advance, and you don't have to pay that back. If you do have questions about it, you can always contact us. But check your account. If you haven't seen it, it is magically appearing in your account. The EIDL loan, though, is a regular loan, so there will be closing documents you need to sign, and you will get an email when those are available with a link to a special portal, because we're doing everything electronically. So there'll be a portal we can go in and sign your closing documents for the rest of the EIDL loan. So let's now talk more about PPP. So in contrast, EIDL is being done 100% by SBA. This is the one and only circumstance where SBA is a direct lender anymore. PPP, on the other hand, is what we call government guaranteed loan. It is being offered through our participating lenders. So to apply for PPP, you do need to go to one of the lenders that's participating. To help make lives a little bit easier, I hope we've come up, created a list of the banks that I know of that service Northern California. They may not be physically based here, but they do service businesses in Northern California. And we have a list of those, and we're adding the new ones where as new banks come on board in order to offer this program, we've been adding them. And the newer banks we're finding are a lot of credit unions and some of what we call non-traditional lenders, some of the fintech lenders. So this list is something you can get from our district office. And I can share it with the Congresswoman's team too, and they can blast it out to attendees of this webinar as well. So one of the things we've been doing, like I said, is onboarding new lenders to try to give people as many resources to tap into as possible in order to access this program. It is a loan. It is a guaranteed loan by SBA, but it is 100% guaranteed by SBA, which we've never done before. And it is a loan, so if it, but the piece that obviously everybody is most attracted to is the fact that it can be a forgivable loan if you follow the parameters and use the money in the way it's supposed to be used. So this program, like I said, is for your payroll expenses, Paycheck Protection Program. It is much more narrowly focused than the EIDL program. It's meant to cover payroll costs, and payroll costs is a broader definition than you might normally think of. It includes not only like wages or salaries, but it also includes benefit packages. So if you have employees and you offer them health insurance, for example, or any sort of retirement program or benefits, the costs associated with operating those or providing those can also be bundled into this overall payroll cost definition. Similarly, there are a few non-payroll expenses you can also include. They are limited, though, to interest on mortgage, rent, and utilities. So those are the only three non-payroll costs that you can bundle into this loan. So EIDL, on the other hand, to contrast, covers pretty much all your ordinary business expenses. The PPP program is focused on payroll, largely on payroll, and just a little bit proportionally for some of these other expenses. I'll get into show you some sample calculations in just a minute, but I do want to talk a little bit more about the program first. The one thing to know is if a portion of it isn't forgiven, it will roll into a loan. a term loan, but the interest rate is 1%, and it's a 2-year term. And again, we are deferring any initial payments for 6 months. So again, very favorable loan terms in and of themselves. The way this program works, as I said, you need to go to a commercial lender or one of our non-bank lenders that we have approved for this program. You will complete the application. They will likely ask you for some supporting documents as well. And these documents are going to vary from business to business. What they're really looking for is, on the application, you put in a number and said, this is my payroll cost. They're going to want to see the supporting documents to show, well, how did you get that number? So if you have employees, for example, and you have the 941 statements, you can use those to show this is how you got to your costs. If you're just a sole proprietor and you file a Schedule C, they're going to want to see your tax returns in that Schedule C to see where you got those costs. So the types of documentation are really there to justify how you got those costs, payroll, plus, benefits that you might pay. So maybe you have a company that manages healthcare premiums for you. You'd want to show the paperwork or the billing statements from that company to show how much you spend on healthcare premiums, for example.
Julie, can you apply for unemployment if you're a sole proprietor? Can you apply for the PPP loan and unemployment insurance?
You can't apply for them at the same time, so they can't be to cover the same period of time because we can't double dip, so to speak. But you should, because the PPP program is limited to 8 weeks, and it's going to be the 8 weeks, what we call the covered period, or those 8 weeks are going to be the 8 weeks following disbursement of your loan. Presumably, things that happen before that or things that might happen after that 8-week period could be covered by unemployment.
And when will there be an expiration as to when you can apply for a PPP loan?
Right now, it's the sunset is June 30th, but obviously it's all dependent on funding as well. So
And Congress.
I don't expect we'll have funding all the way through June 30th right now. With what we have today, that it's not likely it'll last till June 30th. But there could be, we don't know what else is to come. We just know what the existing appropriation we have. I actually just got some numbers. I was going to try to. So as of today, actually, I'm not sure at what point in time today, but we've already lent out of this existing appropriation bucket almost 90 billion. That's almost 1 million loans. So for $90 billion, over 5,000 lenders, actually 5,300 lenders have been participating. And the thing that I think is going to make hopefully more people happy is that we've really made a concerted effort to provide means by getting the smaller banks into the program and giving them the gateway to get in so that they can, really support their customers. And that's where we're seeing the largest dollar amounts right now, percentage-wise, by number and by percentage of the loan. So about 61% of the loan volume right now is with these small banks with under 10 billion in assets. And even today, we did a concerted effort to allow only banks with 1 billion in assets or less to have a specialized time period, if you will, to access SBA's portal to get those loan applications in. So I know there's been a lot of criticism and things that the smaller businesses, the really, really small businesses, weren't having access. So we've done a lot of things to try to, one, create more lending vehicles, lenders, non-traditional lenders, et cetera, to help them access it. And then we also have given those lenders special access into SBA to give them a special window. And that just happened today, and clearly it had a good effect. So just by some of these preliminary numbers. So
can I ask you another question? There was something I saw today about the Bank of America, that they have actually been able to issue 1,000 loans, but they have 186,000 loans that they have actually put in for funding through the SBA. What can you tell us about that?
So I'm presuming they allowed, excuse me, some of the larger would largely be, well, it could have been any bank that had over 5,000 loans applications queued up. They allowing them to submit through a different process, through a spreadsheet type process that didn't put as much demands and taxing on our system. So that's probably what that was in reference to, I'm guessing. Whether or not that all that net number is included in here, I'm not certain yet, because I'm not sure where that is in the process.
Will you just track that for us?
Sure.
One of the chat questions has come in. I know you want to get through your slides, but I think there's also a lot of interest in asking you questions. Is there a list of the Northern California lenders somewhere so that people can actually just access that list?
Yes, I've been trying to get it posted on our website. I don't know that it's up there yet, but I will, I can make sure your team has it, and they can always email us at sfomail@sba.gov, and we'll send that out to them too.
Can you repeat that one more time?
SFO, like San Francisco office, mail at sba.gov.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And so I was just going to show you guys, there's actually, this is the web link you can see up there. There's actually another guidance document that was released this weekend that has, it's actually like 7 or 8 pages long, and it goes through a series of different calculations based on the form of business you are. So whether you're a sole proprietor, you know, a C Corp, an S Corp, a partnership, whatever, nonprofits and others, it actually walks through some of the calculations. Because a lot of people are like, well, I'm a such and such type business. How do I do the calculations to see how much I could potentially qualify for under PPP loans? So I just wanted to show you a couple samples here. This is just a snippet from what you can find through the guidance document that's on this link here, or you can just go to sba.gov and go to our PPP site, and it's there as available for you as well. So let's say you're self-employed and you don't have any employees. How do you determine how much you could be possibly eligible for under PPP? We're going to base it on your tax returns. So 2019 is ideal. If you haven't filed your 2019 tax returns yet, that's okay. I do encourage, as I've been encouraging people, to at least try to do it in draft form, so you kind of have your numbers ready, even if you haven't officially filed it yet. So ideally looking at what is line 31 on your Schedule C, which is the net profit amount, up to $100,000. So for purposes of PPP, no employee, that includes owners, can put in a value of more than $100,000 as their salary base from 2019. We cap it at $100,000. So you're going to use the number on your Schedule C, the net profit, as your base from last year. So then you're going to divide that number by 12 to get what your average monthly net profit amount would be. And then you're basically going to take that number and times it by 2.5. So that's the 2 months, the 8 weeks, plus that little extra for some of the other non-payroll expenses. If you had an existing idle loan, this doesn't apply to a whole lot of people, but if you did, that was in the idle loan was prior to the existence of the PPP program, we are basically asking people to refinance because they probably are showing a double dip. Moving forward, we can isolate out expenses and things that people are using loan proceeds for in both programs. But for the past ones, the idle loans that were received by you before April 3rd, we're not able to do that. So we're doing the reconciliation now. So most people can ignore step 4. It's steps 1, 2, and 3 that are most important. And that's how you will get your amount. If you have employees, let's say this, I know this is like really hard to read, but I didn't, it's easier when you go in the guidance document. But you're basically gonna do the same thing, but you're gonna just look at what, you have different tax filings, right? So you're gonna look, if you're a partnership, for example, at your K-1 filings and the net earnings from self-employment. And then if you have employees, you're gonna look at the gross wages and tips that for your employees, you know, losing your 941s if you have them, and then maybe any other like I said, healthcare contributions or other fringe benefits that you might be offering to them. You're going to add all that stuff up to aggregate what happened in 2019. And then you're going to, again, divide by 12 and multiply by 2.5 to get your EIDL loan, your PPP loan, maximum loan amount. And again, it's similar if you are a corporation. Again, look to what your tax returns show and your tax documents, and then if you have employees, the 941s or other documents you have showing how you pay your employees and how much you paid them, any benefit contributions. But then once you get that lump sum from 2019, you again divide by 12 and multiply by 2.5. Now, if you haven't been in business, if you weren't in business all of 2019, that's okay. We'll look at the period of time that you were in business and still try to go get your monthly average from that. So you might divide by, 8 if you're only in business for 8 months rather than 12, and then multiply by the 2.5. If you're a seasonal business, there's a different calculations you can follow as well, and that's laid out in our guidance documents as well. Likewise, if you are a really, really new business, because you only had to be in business since February 15th to access this program. So if you launched January 1 and you really had a very short window of operating, that's okay too. We'll still use that period of time as your basis for making these calculations for the program. So as long as you were in business by February 15th, you still can apply for this program. Similarly with nonprofits, depending on how you're structured as a business, you can use a lot of these same calculations. And there's also some additional feedback for nonprofits and some calculations shown on the guidance document as well. So I like to point that out for people who maybe haven't found it yet on our website, because I do think it is a useful tool as you're figuring out how much you might be eligible for under this program. And then the nice thing too is you don't have to do this all by yourself. So we have a lot of resources to support you. I wish I could work with each and every one of you individually, but then, there literally are not enough hours in the day. But I have so many fantastic resources here in Northern California to help us, and they're all free. So our Small Business Development Center, SCORE, Women Business Center, advisors are all ready to help you. Our Northern California SBDC network actually hired more advisors just for this, just to help the small businesses through this right now. And they have kind of like a triage team, if you will, that you can call their hotline at 833-ASK-SBDC or email them at loans@asksbdc.com. So they're there to really triage and help with these financing efforts, whether it's PPP, EIDL, or state iBank program, or any of the other things that might be out there.
And so that will be very personalized to your specific set of circumstances, right?
Exactly. They'll talk you through exactly what you've got in front of you, what numbers you should be looking at, how you maybe want to put this together for either program, or to help you find another one if those programs don't work for you.
Are we at a point where we can go on to questions now, or do you have one more slide, I think?
It's just resources, so some links and things to our page, but we can go on to the questions. Yep.
Okay. Katrina, are we going to have this on our website so people can actually watch this and look at these slides again if they wanted to?
Yes, we will.
Okay. So never fear, everyone. You can access this through my website, and all of this information that Julie has so well put together will be available to you. All right, let's go to questions. I know there's a few in the chat, so let me see if I can get to them. Katrina, let's see. One of them, having many problems with PPP via US Bank, which is where I have my business account. I've uploaded both my 940 and 941, but site keeps asking me to upload anyway. So app is only 60% complete with no hope of completing, no phone or email to call. Any questions? Very frustrating, very unorganized system, as if we had been through before. Okay, what can you tell Brian?
Yeah, I understand, and it's too bad that they don't have a real person for you to reach out to. You might want to try another lender. You're not, obviously I know why you'd want to use the lender you have a banking relationship with, but you're not obligated to do so. You can try another lender if this one is, if their portal or whatever is just not working for whatever reason, or you're having trouble getting your documents submitted and or getting someone to help you personally. So we can make sure you have that list after this webinar, so you can try another lender.
Okay, so very small business, banking with B of A, how does supporting smaller banks help them? It seems that if you are a small business banking with a large bank like B of A, it seems like this is a bad place to be. Do you recommend resubmitting through another small bank?
You can try submitting through a small bank, another bank. B of A, it didn't have to be the larger banks, but it was any bank that had queued up over 5,000 applications, had another means to submit those as well. So it's not that they were disadvantaged or somehow precluded, but we were creating multiple avenues through the second time around, if you will, with PPP. Lessons learned from the first time around, right? Second time around, we were trying to create more avenues in order for banks of all shapes and sizes to submit. So we had designated hours, if you will, today for those really small banks to submit. And then we had a mechanism for banks that had 5,000 or more applications queued up to submit as well. And after midnight tonight, midnight Eastern time, so I guess 9 o'clock tonight, the portal will be back open to all banks to continue submitting. So again, we're just trying lots of different things to make sure we can get as many applications in-house as possible.
But if you've already filed your application with B of A, it would seem to me it would make sense to hang in there, correct?
Yeah, I would try to reach someone to see if you can find out where you are in their process.
And actually, you know, with that, the individual who asked that question, you should call my district office, because we have a contact within the bank that we can actually get you connected with, at least get you some answers. Can partnerships pay the owners, the partners, out of a PPP loan? And is that considered payroll and forgivable? How do owners of businesses get a paycheck?
Yes, the owners for sure can be considered employees for this purpose, and it's how you pay yourself and how you document it is how you're going to verify it. So if you filed the partnership K1, you can use that. I think it's box 14A, if I remember correctly, that shows the earnings. You can use that. If you pay yourself another way, then I would bundle up those supporting documents. I know I've had some businesses say, well, I wire money from my business account into my personal account, and that's how I pay myself. Just make sure you can document and show and verify that that's how you got your numbers. That's how you got your payroll numbers. And that definitely includes yourself as the owner.
Okay, is your hotline for personalized troubleshooting in Spanish too?
The SBDC, yes, they can troubleshoot and they can speak in Spanish. And I think there's a handful of other languages as well, which I'm probably not going to get them all off the top of my head, but yes, for Spanish.
Okay, this is actually a question for the state and me. Can you answer questions on PUA? I applied for unemployment insurance the day before the PUA opened. How do I apply to PUA? You should go back and apply today because it opened today. I don't know what they did with those that were in the queue ahead of today. So, and we got word from the governor that they're looking at having that money in your bank account within a week. Some suggest even earlier than that. So you can be looking out for that. Can you please explain why federal payroll taxes can be forgiven under the PPP? Does the national paid health credits conflict with the PPP?
So you can have state and local taxes assessed against compensation paid out of it, but like FICA cannot. And the additional sick leave enhancements that were made under, I think, the piece of legislation that preceded CARES Act, but I'm blanking on the name. There is a conflict there. You can't have that compensated under PPP because that would also be a double dip. But if you just have normal like sick leave or vacation leave expenses associated with offering that, you can have that covered by PPP.
Okay, let's take a live question.
Great. So just a reminder to everyone on the call, if you'd like to ask a question, you can either type it into the chat box as you all have been doing, or you can raise your hand by clicking the participant icon at the bottom of the screen. A window will pop up, and that will, there should be a button that says raise hand on the bottom of that screen. But it looks like Bridget has her hand raised. Bridget, you've been unmuted.
Hi, Bridget.
Bridget, are you there? All right, so we'll go ahead and go to the next one. Gary, you've been unmuted.
Yeah,
Gary.
on the 8 weeks for the forgiveness on the PPP, since a lot of this just got theirs now and people are still at home, will they extend those 8-week periods?
As of right now, no. It's the way the rule is written. It's the 8 weeks that follow the disbursement of the loan, and as of right now too, the program, remember, is set to sunset June 30th. So as of today, we don't really have much buffer there to be able to extend it if we wanted to. So it's the 8 weeks that followed the disbursement of the loan proceeds.
Because the challenge is it's hard to put people back to work when they can't leave their house.
Well,
Or-
part of the intention of the PPP was to have you pay for your employees so they don't go on unemployment, and whether your business was actually operational or not. I understand your point, though, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's payroll. What you decide that they do is up to you, but it's payroll.
Thank you.
Next question is from Olga Potapova.
Yes, hey guys. Can
Hello.
you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful. So we already received the PPP money. One
Great.
is for the corporation and one is for our LLC, which is a subsidiary. And thank you very much. It was processed very, very swiftly. We got it on Monday. And I understand that this money are dedicated to pay our employees, and we are trying to work part-time, one person per day per work area, so we don't really interfere with each other and keep the social distancing. So I'm trying to figure out, do we have only these 8 weeks expenses to be counted against this loan, or should we also count the March and April expenses? Because I am paying our employees 50% salary, regardless of their, hourly participation. So can I use the payroll paid in April as a part of the forgiven portion?
No, it's only the 8 weeks. We're limited to 8 weeks under the law, and it's the 8 weeks that follow the loan disbursement.
Which fall forward. So basically it's May and June I can use it for.
Right, correct.
And one more question. I designated the purpose of this money to be used for payroll and medical insurance. Can I also use it for rent and utilities, even if I didn't write it down?
You can't use more than 25% of the overall amount that you received to cover rent and utilities. So remember, it's the 75-25 split. So at least 75% needs to go towards those payroll and payroll costs, and then no more than 25% can be used for those other expenses.
Definitely. And one more, our bank sent me the information about how the money should be distributed. And there is a statement that we can use it if we are not lowering the salary of our employees more than 25%. That means that I can still pay a little bit less than usual to all the employees, or should I really keep 100% salary for everyone?
Yeah, I think your buffer was, the no more than 25% less. I mean, the intent is to kind of keep people at the same rate that they were paid, prior to COVID-19.
Wonderful, thank you. And one person left the company. We have to fire lay off one person. And it's also said that we have to rehire by June 30th. Is it a mandatory thing? Because we don't need this person right now, and I would rather spend money for those people who really need them. And we need those people. So we have 12 employees and now we have 11. Should I really get the 12th person as well to be forgiven for the whole amount of the loan, or it's okay to just keep it as is?
You will, the intent is to have the same number, and it could be a new hire. It doesn't have to be the existing employee, but if you can't for some reason, we'll just have to, you'd have to look at what it's going to net out to at the end. And if you can still maintain that 75-25% split on how you're spending the money, I always tell people, worst case scenario is maybe a portion of that might not be forgiven, and it'll roll into this 1% interest loan. So it's not like an all or nothing or a do or die scenario. It could be a scale where if you couldn't reach that 75% use of proceeds for payroll, then a small portion of the loan of that money might not be forgiven, and it might roll into this 1% loan.
Great. So next question, we're actually going to go back to Bridget. Bridget, you've been unmuted. Bridget, are you there? Okay. Next hand raised is Azergas or A. Zergas. You've been unmuted.
Okay. I'm Amy. Thank you. My concern is that a lot of people who are applying for these loans, particularly in my field, tutors, teachers, people who work independently, as well as housekeepers, anybody who does repairs and things like that, that they don't have business accounts. And so the banks will not give these, or will not process these loans for people who do not have business accounts, even if they have checking accounts at the banks. And I have called in my area 3 different banks just to find out what's up with this. One is Stanford Credit Union, another was First Republic Bank, another one is Wells Fargo Bank, banks all of which that I have accounts in. And my personal business, I also do educational testing. I just never needed an official business account, but obviously.
Okay, let's see if Julie can answer that question.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So, you can look at some of the non-bank lenders, because a lot of them don't have traditional account structures, so they don't have. That's not necessarily an issue with them. You might want to try that. That's one option.
Julie, can you define non-bank lenders?
So some of the fintech companies you've seen, like PayPal and Intuit and Bluevine and On Deck and some of those other lenders. There's a list on the lender list. We have the ones that I know of that are approved are on there. I think there's about 10 of them.
Okay, here's something from the chat. I've been given a loan number but have not heard anything for 2 weeks.
Is this for EIDL?
Not sure.
Because under PPP, you would probably not know the SBA loan number until you actually see your closing docs, because it's issued towards the end of the process. For EIDL, you would have gotten a loan application number the minute you hit the submit button on your application. So if it's the EIDL loan and you haven't heard back, that's not necessarily bad news. It's just we're spending our time processing the loans rather than continually updating people. So it is in process, and it is going through the motions. Your EIDL advance, like I said, if you elected to receive that as well, might just show up in your account. So you might want to keep checking your account and then keep checking your email for any correspondence from SBA regarding how to access loan closing documents.
So here's another person who has a number, but can you apply for both EIDL and, this question's been asked before, EIDL and PPP?
You can, so long as you're not using the loan proceeds for the same purpose. So you'd want to keep payroll in PPP and all your other expenses in EIDL and be able to document that.
All right. Okay, more live questions?
Yes, Tap, did you have a question? You've been unmuted.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello?
Hi. I have a question. I applied for the PPP loan to the Bank of America, and they send me the email. They say your application to the Paycheck program has been submitted to the SBA. That means I have a chance to get the loan.
Yes, presumably, I'm guessing you did that just this week?
I did that last week for the application.
Okay.
And then they just send me the email. They say your application to the PP loan had been submitted to SBA.
Okay. So they probably used that spreadsheet mechanism I had talked about, and so it's probably being processed that way, is my guess, yes.
Or they make it, or you think I can apply to another lender?
I mean, you can. It's the first entry into SBA's system. We have a system we use with the banks to log loans and track servicing. So however it's entered in first, whether it's through Bank of America or another bank, that's what you'll be going with, so to speak. And any other applications any other banks will be precluded from entering one for you. So either way, you can apply with another one if you'd like, yes.
Great, and the next question is from Gary. You've been unmuted.
Yeah, we applied for 2 of the EIDL loans. One of them, we got information. We did this back in March, and we still haven't heard anything on the second one. We had to reapply a second time. Is there any way to check that to find out what's going on? We haven't received the $10,000 on it, and we don't know what status it's in. Is there any way to check that?
Now, do you have, in your second application, you have a loan number that started with a 3? Presumably?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it does.
Yeah, so then you should be, and you probably elected for the EIDL advance as well?
Yes.
On the application. So those are still in process. Like I said, unfortunately, we don't have like a system where I can go in and check and see where exactly it is other than to know it's in process. What 2 triggers you can watch for is there will often be, many of the borrowers are reporting there's a credit check. If you have credit notification service and you get the fact that it's been checked, that means you will probably be getting the EIDL advance shortly thereafter. And then the EIDL loans are taking longer, somewhere upwards of 5 weeks or so.
Has the amount changed? It was $500,000 before.
Yeah, we're going to have to move on. You've asked a series of questions now twice, so there's lots of other questions in the queue. All right.
The next question is from Alden. You've been unmuted.
Yes, hi. First, thank you for doing this. This is really helpful. This is great. It's kind of off of Gary's question. Same thing, we have our loan, the EIDL loan in, and the number with starting at 3. I submitted on April 1st. Both for me and my husband, both in a similar situation. I don't remember ever like submitting for an actual loan, just like submitting for this and clicking that we would want the advance, but never asking for an amount or anything like that. Have we done it in its entirety and there'll be follow-up?
Believe it or not, yes, you have. It's the simplest loan application you've probably ever seen in your life, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't even look like a loan application, but yes. So the EIDL advance, like I said, is based on employees. So that's a very easy calculation. And if you put 0 in for whatever reason, they'll automatically consider you with 1. For the rest of it, they are having a formula. And if for any reason they do need supplemental information or they have questions, they will reach out to you when the loan analyst is doing the review. But if they don't, they will just go ahead and process it, and then you'll get access to closing documents.
But how is the amount determined?
They determine the amount based on looking at your records from last year and your tax returns, because they can pull the transcripts.
Okay.
So they're looking at that, and they're going to do a calculation. Again, it's based on what they looking at your business expenses.
Okay, I have a question here. It says the money that the Lakers, Ruth Chris, and others are returning is about $170 million. According to this individual, is becoming a paid loan and not going back into PPP. Is that true?
No, it's going back, and actually our administrator, Carranza, tweeted out yesterday, it's going back into this pot that's available right now. So it's being added to the
Great.
pool of available funds.
If it wasn't, I was going to require that we do something about that. So that's good. All right. Next question.
So just a reminder to everyone, if you want to raise your hand, press the participant icon at the bottom, and that will pop up a button, a box where there's a button to raise your hand. But at this time, we can just go back to the chat box.
Okay. Let's see. If you've been given an SBA application number, does that mean the funds are guaranteed pending supporting documentation?
Is that for PPP? I'm not sure which program. If for EIDL, you automatically got an SBA application number when you submitted. And assuming, you know, we still have appropriations, and since we just got another generous round of appropriations, that should not be an issue, so I'll say yes. For PPP, yes, if you actually are aware of the fact that there is an SBA loan number, not the bank's loan number, but the SBA loan number, yes, that's the trigger for the banks to know that they can close the loan and disperse the funds. They're covered.
Someone asked about the reimbursement of FEMA for making meals available. We need to research that. We'll put something on our website tomorrow so that you'll know more about it. It won't be on the county website. It's coming from the state and FEMA. Let's see here. $90 billion you indicated has already been spent. Based on that, when do you think you're going to be out of money again?
It's hard to say. I mean, the first round went in 14 days. This round, I'm not entirely sure, but probably maybe by early next week. I'm not 100%. It's a guess, right? I'm not 100% certain.
Right. The issue of banks requiring you to have a relationship with them in order to take your application, is there any kind of guideline that's been changed on that?
No, I mean, it's never been part of SBA's rules or requirements for our 7A program. And there's nothing from our side that says it one way or the other that requires it or restricts it. So if you're running into any issues like that, my best advice is to try another lender.
Okay, Alden is responding again. Alden, as I said earlier, please just contact the office and we'll troubleshoot your application with B of A. I don't see any new questions. When will the Fed's Main Street Lending Program be available?
I think that's being administered through Treasury, and I haven't heard a definitive timeline yet, but we'll try to look into that for you.
We tried to apply to PPP on Bank of America, and the portal seems to be down. Any advice?
Other than try another bank, try another lender.
Okay. If an employee is an essential business, if an employee in an essential business reports in ill and cannot get a COVID-19 test because a doctor doesn't think their symptoms indicate COVID-19, what is the policy for allowing them to return to work? This is obviously not a question for Julie. I would not do that. I would recommend that they be quarantined because you could be getting everyone else sick. I would also encourage you to have them go to the fairgrounds where there is a company called Verily that's been doing testing, and I believe now that they're also available without a doctor's script to test anyone who is an essential worker. So I would really highly recommend that you have the person go to the fairgrounds, and there's no cost associated with it.
And we have another live question from Phil Brittain. You've been unmuted.
Yes, thank you. I would just want to ask you both. I'm a sole proprietor and I do contract work as well as having a digital agency on the side. So as far as my role of doing contract work, it's much harder to do this. I do business development for startup companies and strategic initiatives for corporations. And it's just so much harder to get business. So are any of these loans, whether it's PPP or unemployment, or is there anything now available for someone like me that wasn't available before? And I'm confused because most of the businesses are larger businesses and doesn't seem to apply to me.
I mean, you are eligible for PPP and for EIDL and also unemployment. So So it's actually, it turns into a math game at this point, right? You might want to look at all three scenarios and just figure out what is actually most advantageous for you financially.
Oh, okay.
One of our Small Business Development Center advisors can help you with that as well.
I would also recommend, you are a sole proprietor, correct?
Yes.
So you should go on to the EDD website for PUA
Okay.
and apply for unemployment insurance today, because you are going to be eligible for a minimum of $770 a week
Really?
to as much as $1,040 a week.
Wow.
So I highly recommend that you do that.
Yeah.
So it's
For-
PUA, P-U-A?
PUA it's called.
Yeah.
But it's unemployment insurance for those who have been independent contractors and sole proprietors. Typically, there is not the availability of unemployment insurance for persons in that category, but because of this extraordinary set of circumstances, we've created PUA, which escapes me what it stands for.
Pandemic unemployment insurance,
Oh,
right?
thank
Yeah.
you. So it's available precisely for your situation.
Yeah. And it may be more advantageous financially than the PPP loan. So
Yes, I would agree. And even idle, because if you're just one individual, you're only going to be eligible for $1,000. To the B of A customer, PPP loan app is online. I just checked it again right now. Log into your online B of A small business account, search for PPP, and the application link appears. Click on the link and scroll all the way to the bottom with the apply button. Well, thanks. That's very kind of one of our people. Thank you. I applied for the PPP to Bank of the West about 3 weeks ago and didn't write down a confirmation number. Not sure if one was sent. How can I track if I'm in the queue still? Should I apply again?
you might want to try to contact Bank of the West, like an actual loan officer or somebody, to see if they held on to those applications that didn't make it in the first wave and resubmitted them. Or in the meantime, you can also try applying with another lender too. But I would try to reach somebody at the bank to see if they can confirm if they rebatched and resubmitted all of those applications.
Excuse me, those are... Okay. I think, are we at the end yet? Let's see. We are, right. So that's why my dogs are barking. So again, Julie, you're just one of those great public servants that I think we all would like to see more of. So we're going to need to clone you. I want to thank the County of San Mateo for once again allowing us to use your platform. Katrina Reel from my staff for putting this all together. Thank you all for joining us. Feel free to call the office if you have more questions, and we're only a phone call away from Julie, so we can ask further. All right, thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.